Presidential activity, April 2019. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers and officials. The meeting reviewed the results of the state's financial performance and reviewed the government's strategy in developing government exports. During the meeting with the Prime Minister and Minister of Electricity, Sisi ordered the completion of the implementation of the new projects of electric power and the continuation of the development of transmission and distribution networks, and discussed the developments of the implementation of the first phase of the electricity linkage project with Sudan. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the Secretary General of the United Nations. During the meeting, the President expressed Egypt's aspiration to continue cooperation with the UN to strengthen its pivotal role in dealing with the files of top priority, stressing Egypt's keenness to support the ongoing reform process within the United Nations. President Sisi met with the Minister of Communications and Information Technology. The meeting discussed the execution of a number of ongoing projects within the framework of the Comprehensive State Development Plan. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi launched the first global forum on higher education and scientific research under the title Between Present and Future. The forum aims to make for an international platform for addressing the present and future of higher education, scientific research, and innovation. On the sidelines of the forum, Sisi met with the Supreme Council of Universities and research bodies. The President stressed the need to improve the role of universities and scientific research methodology to contribute to changing the culture of learning and knowledge. President Sisi inspected the work of a number of construction projects in the new administrative capital. He was also briefed on the project's executive position during his meeting with engineers and technicians at some work sites in the administrative capital. The President met with the members of the Board of Trustees of Bibliotheca Alexandrina. During the meeting, the President listened to the views and ideas of the members on ways to reinforce its role. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Russian Foreign Minister and stressed Egypt's endeavors to consolidate partnership with Russia in various fields. The talks reviewed the opportunities for cooperation between the two countries, as well as ways to strengthen joint efforts to combat terrorism. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi traveled to Guinea on a foreign tour that includes the United States of America, Côte d'Ivoire, and Senegal. President Sisi held bilateral talks with the Guinean President, during which the President affirmed Egypt's interest in promoting economic and trade relations with Guinea, thus contributing to regional and African integration. At the end of talks, the two presidents witnessed the signing of a number of memorandums of understanding to enhance cooperation between the two countries in the fields of culture, sports, media, and trade. President Sisi attended the dinner banquet hosted by the Guinean President in his honor, where he was appointed to the National Order of Merit, the highest honor in the Republic of Guinea. In his speech on this occasion, the Egyptian President stressed that we need more than ever to invoke the values and principles of African brotherhood and solidarity as the basic motive beyond our relations and policies in face of current challenges. President Sisi was received on his arrival in Washington by the United States Secretary of State. The meeting dealt with a number of regional issues. In this regard, the President affirmed that there is no way to settle regional crises except through political solutions. The President also said during his meeting with the American President's senior advisor that Egypt will continue to support any sincere effort to ensure a just and lasting solution to the Palestinian issue, based on the decisions and references of international legitimacy. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held a summit with the U.S. President Donald Trump. The meeting reviewed bilateral cooperation. The meeting discussed ways to maximize the investment activities of American companies in Egypt. Sisi met with the U.S. President's advisor, Mrs. Ivanka Trump. The meeting discussed the issues of women empowerment. The President welcomed Egypt's cooperation with the American side in this regard, in light of Egypt's full commitment to enhance women's rights. During his meeting with the Director General of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Sisi noted Egypt's keenness to continue cooperation with the IMF given that the partnership between the two sides introduces a positive climate for all investors and international financial markets. During his participation in the dinner banquet hosted by the American Chamber of Commerce in his honor, President Sisi affirmed Egypt's intention to continue the efforts of economic reform to achieve sustainable development. President Sisi held bilateral talks with his Ivorian counterpart on his arrival in Abidjan to discuss mechanisms of enhancing bilateral cooperation in all fields. The talks also witnessed a consistency of views on a number of regional issues of common concern. The two presidents also witnessed the signing of a number of memorandums of understanding to enhance mutual cooperation in fields of culture, health, and information technology. During his speech at the joint press conference with the Ivorian president, Sisi underlined the two sides' vision of the priorities of the African Union's performance during the current year and means of pushing forward joint efforts of the African action. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi also participated in the banquet hosted by the Ivorian president in his honor, where he was appointed to the Order of National Merit, the highest honor in the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire. President Sisi delivered a speech on this occasion, during which he expressed his appreciation for receiving the National Order of Merit in Côte d'Ivoire, considering it an embodiment of the value of relations extending between the two countries and valuing their joint efforts to advance the African collective action. On his arrival in the Senegalese capital, Dakar, Sisi held bilateral talks with the Senegalese president, followed by a wide-ranging session in the presence of the delegations of the two countries, where he noted Egypt's keenness to continue political consultations with Senegal on various peace and security issues of the continent. President Sisi delivered a speech at the joint press conference in which he affirmed that he agreed with his Senegalese counterpart on the importance of increasing efforts to enhance cooperation between the two countries in all fields, especially the economic and commercial ones. President Sisi inspected the access of Road al-Farag, which is due to be open soon. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the Commander-in-Chief of the Libyan Armed Forces and discussed the latest developments on the Libyan arena. The President affirmed Egypt's support for efforts to combat terrorism and extremist militias to achieve security and stability for the Libyan citizen. Receiving the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Portugal, President Sisi praised the developments of the Egyptian-Portuguese relations. The meeting discussed ways to enhance bilateral military cooperation, including joint training and exchange of experiences. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers and senior officials in the framework of following up the executive position of the new administrative capital and the ongoing national projects throughout the Republic. During his meeting with the Prime Minister, the Minister of Public Works sector, and a number of officials, the President clarified the state's intention to develop the spinning and weaving factories of the public business sector through modernizing machines and equipment upon the assistance of the expertise of major international companies in this field. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi checked the inspection procedures and the combat efficiencies of Mohammed Najib military base in Alamein after its development. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers and officials to follow up the procedures and the executive steps of the first phase of the comprehensive health insurance system, where he ordered to end up its preparations. Meeting with the Prime Minister, the Minister of Health and Population, and the Chairman of the Administrative Control Authority, Sisi reviewed the situation of the national project of assembling and manufacturing plasma derivatives, where steps taken in this regard were displayed. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi voted in the referendum on constitutional amendments at the School of Martyr Mustafa Yusri in Masr al-Gadida. Polling centers in all governorates of Egypt opened their doors on the first day of voting on the constitutional amendments amid the influx of voters. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers and officials. The meeting displayed the plans of the Ministry of Petroleum for refining and petrochemicals. The President directed the ministry to develop the petrochemical industry with a value added to cope with the changes of the global market. President Sisi received the U.S. Senator. During the meeting, Sisi highlighted the strategy of the relations between Egypt and the United States along decades, and Egypt's keenness to strengthen these relations in a framework of mutual respect and common interest. Receiving Palestinian President Sisi affirmed Egypt's support of the Palestinian issue to reach a just and comprehensive settlement, leading to the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. The meeting reviewed the Egyptian efforts to stabilize Gaza Strip. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the Arab youth and sports ministers. During the meeting, the president stressed the importance of formulating an ambitious and progressive plan of action to activate the Arab strategy to invest youth energies and combat intellectual extremism. During his meeting with the chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, President Sisi highlighted Egypt's keenness to cooperate with the committee and enhance its role. This was reflected in Egypt's active participation in the drafting of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. President of the African Union, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, received a number of African heads of state at a consultative summit of regional partners of the Sudan. The summit aimed at discussing developments in the Sudan. President Sisi, during his meeting with the Somali president, noted Egypt's steadfast position in support of the unity of Somalia and its keenness to support its stability, and discussed ways to strengthen the various aspects of bilateral relations. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the South African president and discussed the African issues of mutual interest. Sisi stressed the importance of formulating an African vision to deal with the crises in the African countries, based on the principle of African solutions to African crises. During his meeting with the President of the Republic of Chad, President Sisi noted Egypt's interest in continuing cooperation with Chad in the field of capacity building through the training courses provided by the Egyptian Agency for Partnership for Development of Chadian cadres in various fields. In his opening speech at the consultative summit of the regional partners of the Sudan, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi affirmed Egypt's full support for the choices of the Sudanese people and their free will to shape the future of their country, and what will be agreed upon at this critical and historic stage. In his closing speech at the consultative summit of the regional partners of the Sudan, the President affirmed the common political will to work collectively supporting the brotherly Sudanese people on the basis of the AU principles and objectives related to the achievement of peace, security, and stability in the continent. President of the African Union, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, chaired the meeting of the Troika and the high-level Libyan Committee of the African Union to discuss the latest developments on the Libyan arena and ways to contain the current crisis and revive the political process in Libya and eradicate terrorism. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi visited the Memorial of the Unknown Soldier on the occasion of the Sinai Liberation Day. Sisi placed a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier and prayed for the martyrs to rest in peace. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held talks with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, where he stressed his keenness to participate in the Summit of Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the UAE Vice President and Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. The meeting dealt with aspects of cooperation between the two countries and ways of boosting them in all domains, as well as pursuing coordination at various levels in order to serve the interests of the two brotherly countries. During the meeting with the President of the National Council of Political Consultative Conference of the Chinese People, President Sisi voiced out his welcome of the Belt and the Road Initiative because it represents support for the bonds of cooperation and coordination between the two countries at the level of the African continent and the Arab states, as it is quite important aiming to promote the comprehensive development. The meeting reviewed a number of files related to cooperation in various fields, especially economy, trade, investment, and security. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held important talks with the Chinese premier on ways to strengthen relations in all fields. During the meeting with the president of the National Council of Political Consultative Conference of the Chinese People, President Sisi praised the development of the historical bilateral relations of Egypt and China being upgraded to comprehensive strategic partnership. The president expressed during the meeting that he looked forward to encouraging Chinese companies to invest more in Egypt. Speaking at the opening session of the high-level summit of the Belt and Road Forum, President Sisi stressed his keenness to meet the Chinese President Xi Jinping's invitation to participate in the summit. Sisi met with a group of Chinese businessmen. The meeting witnessed an open dialogue with the chairmen and representatives of Chinese companies who expressed their welcome to intensify cooperation with Egypt to achieve the common interests of both sides. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. During the meeting, the two presidents reviewed some regional and international issues and exchanged views on a number of conflicts in the Middle East. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi participated in the banquet hosted by the Chinese president in honor of the leaders participating in the summit of the Belt and the Road Forum for International Cooperation. President Sisi met with the Italian Prime Minister. The president affirmed the deep relations between the two countries in various fields. The meeting reviewed a number of issues of bilateral concern, as well as discussing coordination of efforts in combating terrorism and illegal immigration.